It's Brandi and Cesley, and we're back with Blooming Through Faith, the podcast that helps you grow and bloom in your mindset, lifestyle, health, and wealth. We want you to know that you are capable, beautiful, and worthy. In today's episode, we're going to talk about 7 deadly sins of leadership. Sounds a little scary, but it's not.
I know.
All right, here's what we want you guys to know. You are a leader. Everyone listening right now, whether you believe it or not, you are a leader. You are a leader of others in your life, okay? So developing as a leader is one of the best things you can do to help foster your relationships and your success and your mindset, okay? Leadership isn't just about holding a title or a position. That's what we usually think leadership is, right? Something in management. But that's not the case. It's a mindset and a set of actions that anybody can embody. Whether it's at home, in a workplace, or within relationships, everyone has the capacity to influence and inspire others with positivity. From making decisions that affect your family dynamics to guiding coworkers through challenges or just being a supportive partner. Embracing this idea empowers individuals to recognize their impact and strive to lead with integrity, empathy, and purpose in your life. So today we're going to dive into 7 deadly sins of leadership and break down things that might be affecting us as women and leaders of others. I'm going to pass it over to Cesley to start us.
Yay. Okay, so I know it does sound really serious, right? Like 7 deadly sins. But I actually really love it because these are things that we might not even realize that we are doing that are affecting our ability to lead others. And before I even jump into number 1, here's the deal. Just like Brandi said, you are a leader. If you're listening to this podcast, you are placed here on this earth to lead others. If maybe it's just in your home, maybe you're a leader of your children. Maybe it's just amongst your friends, all right? Maybe you have the ability to lead them to a more positive way of thinking. Like no matter what, I want you to try and wrap your mind around this idea that you are a leader. So this isn't just an episode for someone who's like, I am a leader. I'm in charge of other people. No, this is anyone. If you are put on this earth, you are a leader of someone and you have the opportunity to lead them positively. So, number 1, communication must be effective. So, if your communication is not effective, guess what, friend? Your message is not getting through. I hear this from women all the time. They're like, well, it was a miscommunication. Well, she must have not understood. She must not have understood. I can say words. What I was saying. Like people are constantly misunderstanding and misinterpreting what each other is saying. No matter what in your communication, you should always aim to be solutions oriented in conversations with others. It is never, I repeat, it is never more important to be right than to create a solution. Our pride really interrupts a lot of our effective communication with others. You should always go into a conversation with somebody thinking, okay, is my goal right here to prove my point, or is my goal to get to the solution at the end of this?
I love that. And with communicating too, sometimes emails or text message can be pursued. What is that word I'm looking for?
Pursued?
Apparently perceived. That's the word. Apparently, Cecily and I can't use words
We
today.
can't talk today.
They can be perceived incorrectly. So I am such a hoe for voice memos. So literally I will voice memo somebody versus text, whether it's a text or on Facebook or something, especially when it comes to leadership and people I'm mentoring, just so they don't misunderstand the things that I'm saying. Because sometimes I can be very direct. The next thing is lack of follow through. Okay, so here's the deal. Talking about doing something is not the same as doing it. Actions speak louder than words. If you want people to respect you, they have to see you follow through with the things you say you're going to do, period, point blank. If it's always talk, and you're not walking the walk, you're not going to have respect from anybody. Okay. So think about something that you've wanted to do or let's do this way. Think about something that you want to do for a long time. Okay. So whether that is start a podcast, whether that's start a business, whether that's go on a vacation and you're constantly talking about it, but not doing it, you're going to lose respect of those that are watching, whether it's just your family, whether it's just your kids, right? Make sure with your children, when you say you're going to do something, you stick to it, you truly do it. And that's even with disciplining them, right? So if you're like, nope, you're going to go in timeout, and they do the same thing, and you don't put them in timeout, well, they're not going to trust you. They're not going to have respect for you as a leader of the household, right? They're going to think they can get away with anything. Is there anything that you'd like to add to that, Cess?
Yeah, I think that's such a big deal, what you just said about like, even when it comes to discipline and even when it comes to boundaries. Like when you said that, that's what I thought of, is like, if I'm trying to put this plan into action, I want to start this business, right? I've talked about it my whole life. And we even talked about this a little bit when we talked about the top 10 regrets of the dying. I think it was 10. We talked about how people regret not following their dreams and not jumping into action. And a big part of that is like, we're scared to do something, but we'll talk about it a lot. And that kind of, you have to recognize that mentally that kind of satisfies the part of your brain that is the dreamer. You know, talking about it will kind of satisfy that temporarily. You'll think, oh, okay, like that is a great dream I have for myself one day. And then, you know, it gets pushed to the side in your brain and pushed to the side, and then it never happens. And how often have you watched somebody who's a big talker? Do you trust them? Do you respect them? Like, think about people that talk about doing stuff all the time. You're like, oh, okay, girl. Like, okay.
You do you, but that's another one, going back to your children, because think about this. How sad is this, right? So when we were kids, our parents say, you can be anything you want to be. You can accomplish anything you want to accomplish. And then as you get older and things happen in life and you have some failures, you stop believing in yourself. But I know now, when my son's like, I'm going to be a firefighter, I'm like, yes, you are.
Aww.
I'm going to be a policeman.
Yeah.
Yes, baby, you're going to be whatever you want to be. But when did we stop believing in ourselves as we still believe in our children, right? So do it. And your children are watching you. So if you're talking about starting that podcast, starting that business, if you're talking about starting a garden, okay, starting a garden, or maybe cooking more healthy foods, you're saying, I'm going to do it. Do it, babe. You can do it. Let your kids see that you can do those things, whether they're small, whether they're big. And when they see you accomplishing your goals and dreams, they know that they're capable too.
Yeah. And just another example of that, I was a teenager when my mom graduated from business school. And I remember watching her thinking, and it's so funny, we dream about these things, but we come up with all these reasons why we can't do something, and we talk ourselves out of it. But I remember being in high school, watching her cross the stage, and my little brother was actually a baby at that time. And so she was holding my little baby brother on her hip, walking the stage at graduating from business school in her 30s. And, you know, it's an incredible thing to watch, because watching her, I remember thinking like, oh, I can do this at any time. I can do what I want at any point in time in my life. There's nothing that can stop you. So that people are watching you. You are leading others in whether you're action or you're inaction.
I love that. Way to go, mama. That just gave me goosebumps.
I know. She did. Yep. She went back, and she was pregnant twice through business school. Both my younger brothers she was pregnant with them and had them throughout the few years that she was in school. So she was pregnant the whole time too. It was a mess. And now she's a top accountant at this like incredible law firm in downtown Houston. She works by the Galleria. It's very fancy. It's very opposite of me. Like, I wear pajamas all day. I'm like, you're so great and fancy. Okay. Number 3, disconnection. Y'all, don't isolate yourself, okay? So often as leaders, we believe that we shoulder the responsibility of leadership. It's the same in mothering. It's the same in friendships. A lot of the time we believe we shoulder the responsibility. Leadership is not an island. It is a table. And I'm taking this like straight from the Bible, okay? Whether that's your book or not, like Jesus didn't say, hey, I have miracles to show the entire world. I'm going to go a walk-in and go show everybody these great things I can do. No, he prayed and he thought and he brought alongside disciples. It is about bringing people alongside you who are vital to you spreading your mission. So often we have a dream and it's almost like we don't trust other people. So we kind of hold it all in. And there's this beautiful book that I read a long time ago that I probably need to reread. It's called Lead Like Jesus. And it takes all of the qualities that he had as a leader and it talks about them, and it talks about servant leadership, and it talks about what it looks like to bring people into your ideas. So whether it's your spouse, whether it's your friends, whether it's your kids, like my kids, I'm actually going to pull this off so I can show it on video if anybody's watching us on video. So this says, "You go, mom, you got this." It's from my teenage son. And when we started our podcast, I talked to my kids about it and I let them in on the big dream and I let them in on the big idea because it was about how are we all going to make this happen, not how am I going to make this happen. And so now they're so supportive and they get so excited. They're boys. They don't listen to it, but they're like, "Hey, you have to go record some podcasts. What are you doing with it?" Like they want to know about it. And so leadership is not an island. It is a table. Who are you bringing alongside your table to lead with you? It's not about what you can do. It's about what can you enable other people to do.
That's so powerful.
Yeah.
All right. Number 4. Do you have strong character? Do you have integrity? Right. And when I think of the word integrity, I always think of, what are you doing when nobody's watching? Okay. A few examples. Like if somebody had trash on the ground, do you pick it up? I'm a weirdo. I always pick up trash, wash my hands later, but my son sees that. Do you, Cecily put her thumb or her finger up.
No, when you're done, I have something to say. Well, I'll just say it now. So that's one of I was excited about this. That was one of the things that made me fall in love with my husband. We were walking down the street to go on a date and it's like 7 p.m. We had a cocktail already. We're going to dinner and he stops. He goes, "Hold on." And he walks in the middle of the street, picks up a piece of trash and holds it until we get to the restaurant. He probably doesn't even remember this, but he literally holds this piece of trash in his hand until he finds a trash can. And I was like, I'm going to marry that man. That will be my husband.
Oh, Tommy.
Because you could tell his integrity right then.
100%. Same thing with kind of putting the shopping cart back, right? Opening the door for others, like showing your kids that, like we can talk about leading by example at your home. And when it comes to business too, like, do you have integrity? Are you doing the right thing? Are you servicing people or do you only care about sales, right? So does somebody want to follow you and your character? That is so huge. And for me, I was actually talking to somebody yesterday who is thinking about joining one of my businesses and mentorship. And I told her, I said, everything I do with love, I do with servicing people, and I do with my mission, which is to impact and help. And God provides. For me, it is always about people over profit, and that is never going to change. And the girls that are on my team know that, right? And align with that. So what is your character? Do you have integrity? Would somebody want to follow you? How are you talking about people when they're not around? This is a big one too. With family members, right? Are you sitting at a table talking about another family member that's not there? Well, the family member you're talking to is probably not going to trust you because they know you're talking about other people. This goes to the same thing with friends, and this goes to the same thing with business. Maybe you have somebody on your team, okay, or a coworker that you disagree with, and you're bad mouthing them in front of other coworkers. Well, then those coworkers aren't necessarily going to trust you either. And why is that? Here's something that I would love to challenge you on is if you do have a disagreement or you don't agree with something, just go directly to that person. Now, sometimes that person might be hot-headed, and maybe it's not worth it. You know your relationships better than I do, but I know that if something's bothering me, I would prefer to go directly to that person and say, "Hey, this is weighing on my heart. This is bothering me. This is why." And they can perceive it and say, "I'm sorry. Yeah, let's work on it. Let's move forward." Or they can say, "I disagree with you, X, Y, and Z," and fight. But at least I know that I wasn't talking to somebody else about it. I was going directly towards them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. And I think it's really important when we're talking about like not talking about other people when they're around. Having integrity also means like if you have conflict, you should want to be a peacekeeper. You should want to bring that to the source and say, "Hey, this bothered me." And even when it comes to like showing up for things. So like if maybe you got busy, you said you were going to do something for somebody and you can't show up for that thing or you can't do that thing. One thing I learned a long time ago is being able to make that phone call and saying like, "Hey, I need to ask for my commitment back." Or, "Hey, I know I said I could do this for you, but I really can't. And here's why." Or just, "I really can't." Like we say this, no is a complete sentence, right? Like, "Yeah, I really just can't do that. And I'm so sorry." That is having integrity. So even just in the little things that you do, if this is triggering some kind of thought process in your head right now and you're thinking, "Oh, you know what? I did bail on somebody and I didn't tell them why, or I made an excuse. Like a white lie is still a lie, and it's one you don't have to tell. That's the thing. People tell these little white lies all the time that they don't have to. Like we have this internal pressure that we think we're going to let somebody down, but if you were to call somebody and just say like, "Hey, I'm really not feeling it today. I cannot show up for this. I'm so sorry." People will trust you so much more because they'll trust your character and integrity, and they'll know that they can trust you with things.
I love that.
Yeah.
What did you say? I need to take my what did you say? How'd you word it?
I need to ask for my commitment back. I don't
Yes,
know.
I need
Yes,
to
that's what I always say.
I love
Mhm.
that. I need to ask for my commitment
And
back. Now,
I teach my kids that too.
that's so
Important.
good. I'm going to stick with
Yeah.
that one. So for me too, the biggest thing is like if you can show up though, show up. If you
Mhm.
said you're going somewhere, go.
Oh.
Because people are just going to think that you're a flake or that you don't care about them if you just constantly are bailing or saying you can't make something. And like Cecily said, no is a complete sentence. So at the beginning when somebody says, "Can you do X, Y, and Z?" take time to look at your schedule, take time to see how that week is going to go and answer yes or no. If it's
Yeah.
not something that you can do, or even not something that fills your cup and you don't want to do, just simply say no so that you aren't bailing later.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to building that integrity and character.
For sure. Being honest is the greatest character trait you will ever have, because even if you hurt someone's feelings, that is a temporary thing and they will come back around, I promise you, because you were honest. I had a friend just the other day. My husband and I are taking a couple days this week to just kind of reset and just be with our family, and because we've been so busy lately, and it's not a full-blown vacation, but every once in a while we get too busy and we say like, "Hey, we just need a few days." And we run a life group in our house every first and third Saturday. And I called a friend of mine and said like, "Hey, I got to be totally honest with you. I have been so slammed. I really need this time. Do you think you could take this on for me instead?" And it was that on, like, I could have just lied and been like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. I have to cancel. I have blah, blah, blah."
Right.
Like, I could have done that. That would have been a lot easier. But then people are not going to trust me. I'm not going to have any integrity with them. Like, it's so much nicer and it's such a weight lifted off your shoulders when you know that you
Mm-hmm.
come correct all the time. I don't
Yep.
even think that that's a proper sentence, but it's what I say. Come
Well,
correct.
when you're not
It's
lying,
my
or you're
slang.
just telling the
Yeah.
truth, like you just said, you tell the truth, you might upset
Mhm.
somebody, but at least you know that you didn't lie. I
Yeah.
know for me, I don't lie, I don't cheat, I don't steal. Like I just don't. That's not part of who I am.
Mhm.
But I know that if I did, I'd feel real darn bad.
Oh, so
Like if I
bad.
did, even like white lies, it's like, oh my gosh, I need to ask for apology right now. I can't believe I just did that. I'm losing sleep at night.
I
So
did
just
that a
like,
few weekends ago. It wasn't even a lie, but it was a lie by omission. I was really tired after church, and there was a gender reveal that my friend had hosted, and I had told her because my son had a race that afternoon that I was supposed to go to. So I said, "Hey, I can't go because I have the race in the afternoon." It starts pouring down rain and the race got canceled. And I
mm,
was so exhausted. I went home and I didn't tell her that the race got canceled. And that night I was so riddled with guilt about this. I called her and I was like, "I have to tell you something." Like, I could have gone. The race got canceled, but I still went home because I had already told you that so it wasn't even bad. Like, I had already
mm-hmm,
told her I wasn't going to go, but I felt so
mm-hmm.
bad because the reason had changed. It was eating me up all night. My husband was like, "What is wrong with you?" I was like, "I have to make a phone call. I'm so sorry." Okay. On to the next. Number 5. Number 5, negative perception of others. So this is a deadly sin of leadership. You cannot be a good leader of others if you have a negative perception of others. Are you constantly blaming others and picking apart their weaknesses? So this might be you if you are highly critical of others in situations. If you are looking at something that happens, maybe something goes wrong at work, maybe there's a disagreement with your friend group, maybe something happens with the kids' activities or something, there's a miscommunication, and you immediately go, "Well, you didn't listen, or you did this wrong, or they must have whatever," like fill in the blank. You might not be looking inward. The first
Mm.
place you should look when something goes wrong is, "Whoa, where did I go wrong here? What can I fix so that this doesn't happen next time?" The thought of who to blame or whose fault it was shouldn't even be in your mind. It should be, "Hey, what's the solution here? How can I fix this for next time?" So if you are constantly having a negative perception of others, it is going to cripple your ability to lead others.
I think that's so huge. And I think the best leaders, honestly, they take ownership when they fail. And then when there's success, they put it on their team, right? They
Yep.
never like, oh yes, that was
Yeah.
me. I'm so great. It's like, no, it was my team. It was X, Y, and Z. And I think those are the best leaders. I love that.
Yeah. And you shouldn't always fall on your sword, but you should 100% always take accountability for the people who are under you. Always. It's always your fault. And then you deal with them later. You talk to them later.
I love it. All right, guys. Next one is 6, lack of vision for your business. Okay. So, first and foremost, what is your vision? Have you taken time to just sit and think about, okay, what is my vision? Where do I want to be in 1 week, in 1 month, in 3, and 6, and 6 years, right? So what is that vision? Think big. I always say when it comes to goals and when it comes to vision, like aim for the moon because you will land on a star. So if you dream big and you miss, you're still going to be successful and hit some of those goals, right? So how often are you resetting your vision? All right. Take time to come back to it. You're not just like setting, it's same thing with goal setting, which we talked about in one of our early podcasts. It's like a goal or a vision is just a dream unless you have action items to get there, and you have to make sure that you're constantly seeing it, right? And figuring out like, what is your why for that? When you know your why and when you know your vision and you know your mission, you can come back to that when times get hard and you want to give up. All right. Be slow to make decisions and quick to change your mind. Cecily's going to talk about that a little bit.
Yes. So I was told this when I was very young in the business world. A mentor told me, because I was sitting kind of back and forth on a decision, and I was like, I don't know. I have to really, I need more time to think about this. And she goes, take your time. Take your time to make the decision. But as soon as you do, if something goes wrong, be quick to change your mind. So be quick to pivot. So if you have a vision and you have a place that you want to go, no matter what it is in your leadership world, we talked about kids, friends, home, business, wherever you feel like you're a leader, you have to take your time in making decisions. Don't just make rapid fire decisions. Take your time to think about things. But if they start to go wrong, do not be stuck on a bad idea. Be very quick to pivot and change and try new things. Don't change the don't change the vision, but change the steps that you're taking to get there, and be okay with changing it very quickly and making sure that the people around you know the vision also, because that way when things change, you can be like, hey guys, vision's still the same, but here's what we're changing, so that they know they're on the train with you. They want to be a part of that changing of the okay. All right. I didn't know where I was going with the end of that. So I just said, all right. Number 7, last one, you guys. Do not choose the easy thing. Choose hard things. Y'all, this is where we grow. This is where we grow. You have to redo your priorities if you are picking the easy things in life. And a lot of times, if we are not seeing ourselves as leaders of others, if we're not growing in our business, if we're not growing in our relationship with our families, with our kids, maybe we're trying to grow in just ourselves, like our relationship with ourselves. If we're not growing, it's because we're not choosing the hard thing. We have to redo our priorities. So I want you to think about this. In your day, in the scope of your day, do you gravitate to the easy tasks? So like for me, I work from home. That would be like, and I do this often. If I'm having a really hard brain day, I'll be like, I'm just going to fold this laundry real quick. I'm going to go do the dishes, right? Because those are easy tasks for me. They're not things I have to do. I have people that do that. Like, I don't have to do that, but I'll do it because I was like, I'm just going to tidy up. I don't need to tidy. I'm in the middle of my workday. I need to be working, but it would be harder for me to dig into the hard work stuff or to have hard conversations or to pick up my phone. Do you work in sales? Do you wait to make sales phone calls until the end of your day? Do you wait to have conversations with prospective customers until the end of the day? Because if you do, that's because you find it to be difficult, and you're letting that be the last thing you do when that should take on the best of your brain, right? In the morning, first thing in your day is when you're at your very best. You have your most motivation. That's when you should do the hard thing. Our brain will naturally gravitate away from hard things because we don't want to think about it and do the work. The only way to train your brain to jump the hurdles is to actually jump the hurdles. If you've never read this book, Eat the Frog, is that the actual name of the book? I read it, but I don't remember it. Right. Eat the Frog. It basically means do the hard thing first. Make the commitment to do the harder things in your day first. So This is something that I heard a really long time ago in a seminar, and it really resonated with me. So it's a kind of a weird analogy, but this is what I want to leave you with. You have to decide if you want to be a crop duster or a fighter pilot. So think about this, a fighter jet, right? An airplane, fighter jet. It goes into its day with a mission. These are some of the most expensive, well-maintained planes in existence. They have a mission. They go to heights and speeds that other planes can't. They can't run without proper fueling, proper care. Like, you can't just put anything in a fighter jet. These are hundreds of thousands of dollars, $1 million planes. A crop duster, I'm from Texas, so I see a lot of crop dusters. Okay. If you don't know what they are, they're like clunky old little like planes. They run with like one propeller. They can really be an old clunker. They don't need much. They have low expectations. They fly pretty low. They have the same thing that they do every day. They're not looking to be anything more. They don't work with a lot of resistance. Like if it's bad weather or it's raining or anything like this, too windy, they just don't fly. They'll just wait and do their job another day. Fighter jets come against resistance and fight. Like, they fight to win. So you have to decide, do you want to have a fighter jet mindset? Because that's all about pursuing your goals relentlessly despite the adversity and the obstacles that come along your path. So at the end of the day, do you recognize the patterns in your life to be a good leader, to be a fighter jet? What are your good and bad habits? I want you to think about the following things. 1, am I followable? Like, could I follow me? Am I productive? Do I have healthy habits? Be okay with the feedback. Find someone who can level with you. Like Brandi is to me. Like, I need someone who won't sugarcoat stuff, that's going to tell me if I'm not having healthy habits. Are you physically and mentally disciplined? What are the things that you need to do in order to become a better leader? You need to get extremely addicted to developing yourself.
That last one, though, I love that. Get extremely addictive to developing yourself. I love that. All right, Grow Girls, if you're not able to duplicate what it is that you do, nothing you do matters. As a parent, you want to be able to duplicate what healthy relationships look like, what a successful life looks like. In friendship, you want your friends to be able to duplicate your example of the friendships and what that looks like. In business, you want to show up and show out for the one life that you have. And you have responsibility to be a light for others and lead them into a more positive, successful existence. And remember, you're worthy, you're capable, you're beautiful, and we can't wait to watch you grow, girl.